make him a unique resource as a practitioner in public policy. His areas of interest and policy emphasis are in health policy, political and economic studies, governance, and advocacy for innovation in government. He's currently the Director General at the Nigerian Institute for Social and Economic Research. He's also the MD CEO of the Center for Public Policy Alternatives. Please let's welcome Dr. Folarin Gbadebo-Smith.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I was just saying that I see Dr. Ibidapo here with us. I'm very pleased that he's still up and about making trouble in Ikeja. I must say that I'm very pleased to be here. It's not often one is in an association where you feel as if you are in or with family, but I feel I am with family here. The subject of today, first I thought it was going to be a fairly straightforward thing to look at. Then as I started to prepare for it, I suddenly realized that it is a rabbit warren of issues. But I will start this presentation, or should I say discussion, by first thanking the organizers for thinking me worthy of this honor. But I know why Dr. Fadaunsi invited me. It's because she thinks I'm old. And that old people are not afraid to tell the truth. So Dr. Fadaunsi, I hope I do not disappoint. I want to preface this discussion with a little anecdote. Last weekend, I jokingly, sort of half jokingly, offered to work for my son's company. My sons have businesses of their own now. So I was thinking after retirement, would one of them hire me? He laughed at the thought. After some back and forth, he told me, thanks, but no thanks, Dad. But you see, what this experience told me is that the very question of succession is up for re-examination. Implied by succession is the presumption that a younger group of people or generation will succeed or inherit what we have built. Is that really the case? I think the title, Dr. Fadaunsi is very prone to, diplomatic language. The title may perhaps have been more appropriate, described as exit strategy, the role of partnerships. Whatever the case, this is an important subject to the extent that two certainties of life are death and taxes. taxes we can adjust, avoid, or otherwise manipulate. Yes. So I was saying that taxes we can adjust, avoid, or otherwise manipulate. With death, there are no such flexibilities. There's a cycle to life, and it's a bell curve. You start small, you reach your peak, and then you decline. So I suggest that we need to borrow a leaf from Christians, the born-again Christians in particular. I see Dr. Karowe here, who always tells me that the rapture is close. We need to borrow a leaf from Christians who believe that there is a need to prepare for the afterlife. But this is not the training that dentists receive, or should I say that dentists should receive. We leave this business of the afterlife to our born-again brothers. But notwithstanding our belief systems, reality does stare us in the face. Many here, seated here, will live till they are 90 years old, and particularly in good health. Some will actually live till 100. Unfortunately, few will be able to save enough to last the 20 to 30 years that they will live after 70, which is the period of retirement, which is a period we must all countenance. And I can tell you this because I've seen it firsthand. My father retired at 60 and lived till he was 93. He almost was in retirement longer than he worked. So the question of planning is very, very important. But here are some facts for you to consider. As far as partnerships and so on, succession planning is concerned, no Nigerian business, and I say this without exception, has survived 3 generations. None. At least none that is not, a tiny little thing. And the most successful group, as far as models is concerned, is what we call the Igbo trader, who, by the way, is one of the least formally educated Nigerians, the Igbo trader. In fact, many people make fun of him. But this community of people have worked out a model that allows for expansion, because one of the things we are faced with here are the challenges of modern commerce in medical practice. This business model of the Igbo trader, where there's a boss, he trains a bunch of acolytes, and then he funds their outward movement into business on their own, ensures that business in Nigeria will substantially be in the hands of the Igbo trader for a long time. And this is one group that is almost guaranteed to succeed. They are following what is essentially a model that you see in the animal kingdom regularly. Animals that travel alone do not generally survive the evolutionary stresses. Animals that move in packs are easily the most successful. So One of the most successful pack animals is the wild dog. Strangely, they grow, they attack, they do whatever they do, but they do it as a group. Now, the topic partnership and succession planning opens up some more universes for us. We are, for instance, inadvertently discussing transitions. But a transition to what? And what price are we willing to pay for this transition? When do we begin the process of transition? For many of us, the planning is coming at the end of our careers. Stephen Covey, in his book, 7 Habits of Successful People, stated that those people, and I mean successful people, begin with the end in mind. Few of us, I dare say, began our dental practices with this end in mind. And we are actually surprised that, as the Christians say, the end is nigh. Our transition options when the career of the principal or founder comes to an end, for the purposes of clarity, are the following. Number 1, sell the practice to other dentists or investors or private equity groups today, which include everything from Evercare to Gates Foundation. There's no shortage of people who will happily buy your practice. Admit or establish a partnership. Number 3, merge with other practices, itself a form of practice. Number 4, hand over to your children. How many people here have children who are dentists? Can I see a show of hands? How many people have children who are dentists? I see one hand, and I say, Madam, you are a fortunate person, because perhaps you have one clear option for succession. And finally, the final option is simply retire, close the door, and go home. I say choose your poison. First, understand one thing: professional life is a tunnel. And the reason I say this is because all of us here suffer from the same tunnel vision to some degree or the other. When you're a professional, you see everything through that one lens. You're running around materials, finance, but in the end, you've forgotten that there's a much wider world out there, which means, of course, that many of us miss the universe of options available to us outside of professional life. You missed it at the beginning when you decided that your only option was to be a practicing dentist. In that same period, some dental students upon graduation got into banking. Some went into the civil service, whilst others went into medical practice and specialized, in another direction. I don't know whether you're aware of the fact that our head of service of the civil service is a dentist by background. I interact with her regularly, very bright lady. Some, like myself, end up in policy work, and I'm sure you've heard about the 2 classifications of people. There are only 2 types of people in the world. There are foxes and there are hedgehogs. Hedgehogs are people who do one thing and do it very well. They are focused, they are not distracted. They just do the one thing and they do everything there right. Foxes, on the other hand, are people who cannot seem to stand still. They're all over the place. This business, that business, this association, that foreign trip, this exhibition, they are just all over the place. And for the foxes like me, the transition started a long time ago. If truth be told, my adult life has been one long transition. But that's another story. Suffice to say, I now practice economics and that sort of business, but I paid a really steep price for this transition. And the reason I bring this up is to ask the question, what price are you willing to pay? This succession we are discussing is a transition. And the question is, what price are you willing to pay? I paid the price of an unhappy wife much of the time, since she was a hedgehog. I paid $100,000 in school fees and lots of missed opportunities. But I think that in the end, God sort of looked down on me with compassion because I am still standing. And it is the biggest evidence that I am blessed, as Dr. Father Osi would often say to me, blessed and highly favored. Because there were times when I didn't think my forays into different things wasn't going to get me into trouble. So what price are you willing to pay? More importantly, what price are you willing to accept for your practice? Assume that you are going to sell the practice or admit a group of partners to the practice. What price are we willing to accept? What are you willing to give up for your would-be partners? Because like in marriage, you cannot enter and still be single. You are now married. So you cede a lot of what you have and hope for the best. And who are these strangers knocking at your door asking to be partners? Young dentists, foreigners, all sorts of people who you really don't know what they are thinking about. And just by the way, what is a practice? To ask an even more fundamental question, what is a practice? Is it the equipment? I can buy that with little money. I mean, if I put 10 million naira together, I get a Chinese chair, get a room, and so on. Before I know what's happening, I'm practicing. Is it the goodwill? Is it the patient list that you have? And many of the fears that prevent partnerships from taking off include the idea that a young dentist is going to come join you and then walk away with your patients, in quote, your patients. I know who made them personal, but many of us think of them as our patients anyway. So let's talk partnerships. What is the state of most practices? Except for a few, and I've been to many, owned by friends who are sitting here, capacity is weak. Since the supply lines for fresh talent or young associates is so feeble, is feeble to non-existent. I have heard about some of the, I thought when I was in practice that things were in decline, but some of the things I hear of now are just absolutely frightening, where people do not get, there's I think it was Bode who was telling me that there's this thing called the theory of practice or theory of practicals, where you don't actually get to do anything, you just get to describe what is to be done. When you want, instead of saying you want to do instead of doing a composite on a patient or a phantom head, you are taught how to describe the process, and that's it. There's the problem of short-termism. Most practices live from day to day because there was little by way of business training when most of us were in dental school, and therefore we don't realize that with every procedure we carry out on a patient, we're actually losing money. Replacement pricing was not the norm. So you bought your first handpiece, and then it was almost as if that handpiece was going to last forever. When it is time to replace that handpiece, suddenly it occurs to you that charging $6 or the equivalent of $6 for any one procedure does not make sense when your instruments cost close on $1,000, and they are not going to last that long either. Many did not notice or did not confront the reality of a foreign exchange collapse, even when operating costs in the profession are all denominated in foreign exchange. So, and then of course, there are the fortunate few. One group that will thrive even in this toxic environment I'm describing are the orthodontists. Because first of all, they took the trouble to denominate in hard currency. They carry very little overheads, most of them. And everything is in a briefcase. They are very mobile. They can get on the plane and go and work in Port Harcourt, Abuja. And I'm describing the itinerary of some friends I know. Are most practices viable? Bear in mind that the market for dental services is essentially the middle class. The poor cannot afford private care, and the wealthy go abroad in any case. So you have just the middle class. In 2022, it has been determined that the middle class is shrinking and shrinking fast. As the foreign exchange rates decline, as the economy kind of tilts from left to right, that class is shrinking. On a supply and demand profile, the overall market for private dental practice can be said to be shrinking. It is in this context that we must look at the question of succession planning. Is the future sustainable? Few practices, from what I know, have escaped the HMO trap. And what is, when you say you want to go into a partnership, your perspective as the founder, owner, or however, or the principal of the practice, but what is the buyer's perspective? If I were a buyer, I'd be asking myself the question, what am I buying? Am I buying the equipment, the goodwill, or is there a grand vision to all this? Is the practice itself investor ready? In other words, are there systems in place, or is this your typical one-man show where he's the accountant, he's the administrator, he's the receptionist, and everything? Will the patients stay after the practice is sold? Because assume we even come to an agreement on price. So Dr. Fadamsi said she wanted to buy Aunt Christie, and I said, okay, Aunt Christie is worth $10 million. And she said, here's $10 million, because her husband is wealthy anyway. So she bought the practice, and then all the patients simply fled and went off to Dr. Kanwe. What did she buy? Will the principal herself or himself stay long enough to ensure a smooth transition, or is he on his way to Canada, leaving an empty bag? And what about the principal's family? Have they been carried along, or will they show up later to say, I'm demanding my father's property? Who are you? let's be honest, and I'm going to be brutally honest about this. This is a story of trust. Partnerships is rarely about trust or the lack thereof. We as professional colleagues oftentimes simply don't trust each other because I suppose people are afraid. It's a jungle. You know, I'll tell you, because we are in a closed community, I can say this. I have had dentists who came as associates and ended up stealing equipment, forceps and things like this. I have had people take staff on their way to their own practice or setting up their own practice. I've had people come to me on day one saying, I'm looking for a job with you. And even as we are discussing the job, that person is setting up a practice somewhere else at that same time. So this was not a quest for employment. It was a quest to enter my system, basically loot my system and transfer my assets. But in fairness, I've also had the privilege of working with some really fine people. People who today I consider them close friends, brothers, and sisters. But I must say, this is a small minority. Instead, as a profession, instead of cooperating, we have been in the business of a fierce competition. Whilst we scrambled for market share and dominance, third parties have shown up now. There are barbarians at the gate. They have shown up and their plan is to eat our lunch. Everything we have been fighting for, me and Dr. Fadausi have been fighting for years over market share. And then suddenly we wake up and both of us have lost. We lost to Boots Chemist, who set up a chain around us. So suddenly both of us are without clients. Boots has taken the whole market. What is the sense in that? We never learned to work together, yet the season demands that we cooperate or we perish. Succession in its classic form demands grooming of younger people by older people, the Igbo trader model. But I know practices where the principal will neither teach the younger person, nor will he even allow the junior to see or do a root canal procedure. How will that junior ever take on the mantle of that practice? And if you remember what I said, the certainties of life are death and taxes. There is a day you will leave that practice, sooner or later. And this lack of trust cuts both ways. The junior does not trust the principal does not trust the junior. Yet somewhere in this mix, somebody is going to hand over or sell through some device or the other to the other party. There's a concept in economics called transaction costs. If you do find a potential buyer who's willing to buy into your practice, who will pay for the documentation that is involved? Who will pay the lawyer's fees to draw up a partnership agreement and so on? The lowest transaction costs involved in a contract is one where you can seal it with a handshake. Once you involve lawyers and accountants and so on, your transaction costs rise exponentially. If truth be told, as a profession and as a community, we have, by competing with each other instead of cooperating, we have sown the wind. The question is whether we are going to reap the whirlwind. And is this how our story ends? Is it all doom and gloom? In public policy, any question you ask has only one answer. And that answer is that it depends. So no matter what I ask you, you are safe in replying me, it depends. It depends on what we are willing to do and what trade-offs we are willing to make, what sacrifices we are willing to make. And are there ways out of this conundrum? Already we are seeing signs of decline in the entire ecosystem. The university system has practically collapsed under funding, under training, under investment in personnel. I mean, you can't compare a dental school now with the dental school Dr. Ebidapo attended. Or for that matter, the dental school I attended. I was a class of 11 with 8 professors, 6 of whom were trained abroad. Today, 50 in a class, no professors, no equipment, but they are all going to graduate as dentists. Poorly trained, unemployed juniors faced and engaging in a mass exodus of what little talent exists in the market. Everybody's on their way to Canada. A few people came back from the US in the early years. I don't know if I would still have come back here knowing what I know now, but then again, I tend to do things that are not very practical. To be sure, some practices will succeed, but only a handful, and fewer still will make it to this promised land if the promised land is succession or partnership. So what is the way out? This, my proposition this morning, involves almost a contradiction in terms, where the same people who I've said are not familiar with cooperating are going to have to cooperate. It involves pooling resources, and I want you to be patient with me, because I'm making a totally out of the box argument. It involves pooling resources to develop a code of ethics, drafting a partnership template that can be enforced informally. In other words, the Association of Private Dental Practitioners becomes the enforcer of this code, because government is not going to do it for you. Government is in the business of government clinics or public establishments. So as far as government is concerned, you folks have been making money all these years. If you have any problems, you are going to solve it yourself. We need, as a community, to create an enforceable environment where we follow rules, we establish standards, and we are able to collectively bargain. It's no point me saying I charge 10,000 naira for a root canal when my neighbor is charging 3,000 for the root canal. The patient doesn't know anything about quality of root canal. All he knows is that my pain was taken away. If that guy charges 3,000 and the fellow further down the road charges 1,000, this becomes a race to the bottom, we're all going to end up poor. Our only hope is collective bargaining, one common front. But how do we ensure that people do not undermine that common front? Because people have different sense of survival. And if I go back to my animal kingdom example, that survival depends on the collective survival. You cannot survive alone in what is coming. Can we arrange tutelage for fresh graduates, knowing that many will abscond at the earliest opportunity without a backward glance? Are we willing to make that sacrifice? That 1 out of 10 people that work with you may stay with you. Are we, as today's practitioners, willing to donate to the dental schools equipment and money? I remember donating many years ago, I don't know, in the 90s, I remember donating some books to the Luth Library in the early, I think it was in the early 90s. Of the 4 students that came to thank me, 3 ended up working with me in some capacity or the other, strangely. 1 is still working with me in public policy. 1 is working with me as an associate. I hope will become a partner. And the 3rd works with me in Abuja in the president's office as the public policy advisor there. So this single gesture was returned to me in spades. And so I say that sometimes you do reap what you sow. I've tried to skim the surface of this question of succession. I don't want to get into how to draw up a succession agreement, a partnership agreement. That's for lawyers to do. I've tried to skim some of what I think of as the deeper questions of succession. One thing I can tell you is that nothing enduring or worthwhile happens by chance. And unless, of course, you are one of the righteous, in which case I say, let us pray. Thank you for listening. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Smith. Another round of applause for our keynote speaker. Wow, that's a lot to chew. Talk less of swallow. When you try to swallow that, it's likely going to choke you. Now, the reason for saying that is very simple. In the last few years, I've had interactions with a lot of my colleagues and a couple that are behind me. And this issue of succession plans and all the likes comes up and pops up all the time. Now, looking at, if I may use this word, the tunnel vision, the glaucoma view that they said, it's even more complex than it is. It's almost like 90% vision loss when you're looking at it. Because the options on the table, you just have to take one. Part of the things we've been talking about, because we had a committee that was set up by NMA Lagos that invited us with respect to anti-quackery. We were starting from the baseline and we asked questions about code of conduct. And one of these things that came out is we don't have standard operating procedures in any of the specialties in medicine. So we need standard, we need a code of conduct, because what he has said is the major problem we have. There are no consequences when people don't follow what the group says. And this is a time for us to do that. In view of this, as part of what we did yesterday, a sheet of paper will be passed around. Then with our Zoom audience, we need nominations. We need people to get involved and volunteer for the committees we have talked about. This AGM is not just a talk shop. We have gotten to the point that we either swim or we sink. In the last few years, somehow, part of the pluses that came with COVID was to slow down some multinational swallowing of practices in Nigeria. People are coming around with huge money for opportunities we are not seeing. So it's important we come together and we understand we are either going to come together, fight together, and stay together so that we can succeed together, or we all drown and perish. Simple. It's two-way. After all, nobody gets out of life alive. Dr. Folayemi, please.
Thank you. Our second speaker is my friend, my lawyer, and my patient. Speaking to my patient, I don't know who called them my patients. So Mr. Akinwale Irokosu is a sustainability-focused legal practitioner and a cross-disciplinary thinker with expertise in litigation, electricity, capital markets, and commercial law. With almost 2 decades post-call experience, Wale is a co-founder, managing partner, Probitas Partners, LLP, one of the leading specialist law firms in Nigeria. He's also the senior partner, SQS Consulting, a tax advisory and strategy firm, and a co-founder / director, SQS Publishing, and editor-in-chief of Electricity Law Reports and Electricity Digest. Wale is a consummate public servant and currently serves on the National Executive Committee of the Nigerian Bar Association, NBA Committee on Legal Education. He's a member of NBA Committee on Court Monitoring, Governing Council, Yaba College of Technology, Board of Ovie Brume Foundation, Board of Governors Ansarudeen Grammar School, Randall Avenue, Surulere, Lagos, Executive Committee, Isale Co-Descendants Union, Board of Trustees, Youth Party, and chairs the Culture Committee of the Isale Co-Descendants Union, as well as Project No Excuse Committee. He is a member of the Lagos Polo Club, Ikoyi Club, Eco Club, and Ibom Golf Club. Wale continues to contribute to the body of knowledge in the legal profession, pioneering a dedicated publication of judgments in relation to electricity cases and leading research for the Electricity Law Reports and the Electricity Digest. Wale Irokosu holds a Master of Laws, LLM, degree in Maritime Law from the University of Wales, Cardiff, a Bachelor of Laws from the University of Central England, Birmingham, and is an alumnus of the Nigerian Law School. He's a member of the Institute of Directors. He's an associate member of the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers. He's an associate chartered Institute of Arbitrators, UK. He's a member of the Chartered Institute of Taxation, amongst other associations. He's also the founder of the RAP Joint Lagos. Please let's welcome Mr. Akinwale Irokosu.
Thank you very much for the kind words. I'm truly honored and privileged to be speaking to this very distinguished professional body. When I was in secondary school, only the best make it to law schools. It's not like that for us lawyers. Sometimes we just struggle through. So I'm really, really, really honored and to an extent a bit intimidated to be speaking to you. And I hope I'll be able to learn a lot from this forum. I already picked up some lessons from what Dr. Smith was saying. So welcome everyone. Even though I was intimidated, I didn't want to say no to my dentist as someone with sweet tooth because I didn't want to put myself at risk. To the topic of the day, which is a very, it's a perennial topical issue in Nigeria, not just for your profession, but also for all businesses in Nigeria. Like Dr. Smith mentioned, rarely would you find any business or profession that has transcended 3 generations. Even though I think Akintola Williams may be able to claim that glory to an extent. I think he has transferred to one generation to the other from 1952 and is still standing one way or the other. And I think for me, the goal of my discourse is to see how we can engender a partnership and succession that is enduring and that is measured by generational succession. And I think generational succession really is when it can transfer to about 3 generations, that's about 90 years. And when you are talking about a generation, you are really talking about the time of the birth of the parent and the birth of a child. So if you can take that 3 generations, typically most people would have their first child on average at about 30 years. I think I'll be covering this more from the legal standpoint, my own experience, personal experience, the little research I've done about the dental practice as an outsider. So please forgive me if I get a lot of things wrong about your sector. But from the outside, some of the things I picked up is similar to the challenges that we faced. I think the only difference is really your market. Your market is slightly different from the legal market. And I think the first thing that I noticed, which is similar to ours, is the weak corporate governance structure. In a partnership, the partners are the worker, they are the managers, they are the shareholders as well. So when you want to make a decision, the first thing that you think about is number 1, yourself. This money on the table, do we employ more hands, buy more equipment, or do I buy a new house? And there's nobody that will stop you. You know, so I think that's the number 1 challenge with partnership, and I think that also relates to dental practice, except dental practice that are registered as a company. And I'll be very surprised if they run a board and AGM in a dental practice. It's possible, but I'm not aware. So it's based on, there's a conflict of interest, which is very profound. No matter how objective the partners are, it's difficult to stand at arm's length. However, in an incorporated company, it's a different ballgame. You are going to have a board of directors where executive directors, the people engaged in day-to-day activities, will be sitting together with non-execs who are a bit more detached from what is happening every day. And to put it in another way, I'm typically bogged down with operational issues, you know, meeting with clients, the generator is working, how to pay salaries. The only time I get to think strategically is when I'm sitting down with my board of my advisory board, which is typically every 6 months. So a week before my meeting, all the things I promised to do, and I start calling around. So you can imagine if I don't have those people to face up to, all I'll be dealing with is how to cater for my client, pay my salaries, and I can keep coasting for years, just surviving. And but in a company, you are going to be sitting down typically every quarter with people that are a bit detached at the board level. Then every year, we shareholders at the AGM whose sole objective is their bottom line, and also ensuring that nobody is taking more than they should be taking. In a partnership structure, you don't have those checks and balances. It's the same set of people doing everything. I think the other major issue is human capital, brain drain, most importantly, which compared to most professions, the medical profession is the worst hit, sadly. We in the legal profession too, we're going through it, particularly this year. I've been dealing in my office. I had 12 lawyers late last year. Maybe we were about 5 by yesterday, So the people that are going to Canada, I've gone to Canada. I can't compete with Coca-Cola. I can't compete with FPN trustees. I can't compete with the tech boys, So it's a conveyor belt, It's like, I said to one of my mentors once, I said, what's the point? Let me just get 2 very experienced people, or 3 very experienced people, pay them a lot of money, and I don't train anybody, because I feel let down training you and you're just walking away. And he said to me, any fool can make money. When you don't train people, you are not impacting, So it's part of your job to train. You owe it to yourself, you owe it to the profession, you owe it to the society. So we've accepted our reality. We continue training, we continue walking away. As far as the brain drain is concerned, it's quite profound. And when I was looking at the numbers, I was quite scared. They said about 88% of medical doctors in Nigeria are seeking work opportunities abroad. That was a study done in 2017. And apparently, the doctor-patient ratio is quite low in Nigeria. It's about 1 to 5,000 at the last count, whilst WHO recommended ratio is 1 to 600. So very soon we'll probably not have medical doctors to attend to us anymore due to brain drain. Some of the complaints that medical doctors have raised is poor working conditions and also low remuneration for reason to migrate. So someone that I spoke to said to me, they offer your wife and your children residency, and they offer you almost everything within a short period of time. And when he mentioned that, and I thought to myself, I can't imagine the battle you will fight at home with your wife if you say you are not leaving. That you mean we're going to get residency, have uninterrupted power, emergency service, and you want to stay here. And I'm mentioning that because the math, money-wise, financially doesn't add up. I will get to that. It has to be beyond money for most people to stay. Also, NMA apparently said half of its members, registered members, practice outside Nigeria. And of course, that is also leading to medical tourism, because if you can't find people to treat you here, you go abroad, even though the upper class people, the upper echelon, they prefer to go abroad anyway, regardless of the quality of professionals here. I'm also going to align myself with Dr. Smith on trust. And it's across board. You are not insulated from the Nigerian society. So it's not just a dental practice problem. is with the tailor, is with the vulcanizer, is with the legal practice, is everywhere. Nobody trusts each other anymore. And my new saying is, nobody listens to what anybody is saying. They watch what you do. What you are doing and what you are saying, they have to match. You can't be telling me we are going to meet at Muritala Mohammed Airport at 12 o'clock. And I ask you where you are saying you are in Abeokuta. It's not possible. So demonstrate. Now the level we are in Nigeria is what you are saying, you need to demonstrate it. You need to build trust. In most society, trust is a given. If you go to a UK bank and you say someone took money from your account, the first thing they do, they give you back your money and they investigate. In Nigeria, if you say they take your money, they will investigate, then they give you back your money. So the presumption is that we don't trust each other. So the onus is really on us to go over and above to show other people that we should be trusted. And what am I referring to? Management and employee trust deficit. Employees do not believe, generally speaking, that employers have their welfare, career progression in mind. They don't think so. Employers also see people that are not patient, people that want to loot their trade secrets, people that are on industrial espionage. That's what they see. And both sides are right to a large extent. So the issue is, how do we bridge the gap so the employees will hedge their bet? As a matter of fact, it has gotten to a point where when people are even nice to you, you get very suspicious. And I use myself as an example. I had a Syrian Nigerian client. They have Arab culture. So it was being extra nice. My brother, when are you coming to Abuja? Let me pick you up. This is like, after I stop picking his calls. You don't behave like that in Lagos. Pick me up, what's your business? Eventually I called a friend of mine that's a northerner. It's like, Fatih, what's wrong with you? Yeah, it's funny. Said, no, it's not like that. In the north and in the Arab world, they only do business with people they consider family. So they want you guys to be friendly. They want you to meet their family, and they want to meet your children. Everybody becomes one. Is more than money sometimes. I said, no problem. I met him. It was true. Then I went to the UK. He called me again. Well, it sounds like you're out of the country. Where are you? I said, I'm in the UK. I'd like you to meet my dad. I said, okay, send his number. Before I called the dad called me. So I went to meet the dad. And the dad lived in Nigeria for about 60 years. He's poorly medically, so he stays in the UK now. And he took me out to a park. We were together for 3 hours. Then he said the following day we should meet up. I said, my mom is in Manchester. She's not feeling well. So let me speak to your mom. Sent my mom some money, spoke to me. And I sat down. I said, you are really traumatized. You have a problem with people being nice to you. Oh, you are not used to it. That's what I see in Nigeria. So even you have to be careful when you are being nice to people. If they don't ask you, if you offer, in Lagos, they become very suspicious. What's going on? So it's a cultural issue and it's deep. It is very deep. And it relates to a lot of things. Sometimes I ask myself whether we're really normal, what we've gone through. And a little digression. During the NSAS protest, before it started, the death that triggered it was one gentleman that was killed, that his father was crying. I don't know if anyone saw that. And someone sent the video to me. I ignored it. So when the riot started and it affected my work, I then watched the video. And I was like, Wale, you have become numb to things that are not normal. Someone lost his son, he's crying. You can't even watch. When you open the papers and they say 100 people died in Zamfara, it doesn't move you. Unless is someone that is personally known to you. It is not normal. So bottom line, we cannot be using the standard of abroad to do business here. For you to build that trust, we need to understand the environment that we are operating. We need to understand that trust doesn't exist as a given. Also, when we want people to trust us, we need to give them in doses. You understand? If it's too much, they will run away. You have to give them in digestible form. I remember when I was in nursery school, I hated school. And what my mom used to tell me, I love parties. There's a birthday party and everything. Then they will make those paper boats for me. That was the language I understood. Telling me I could be a lawyer or I could be a millionaire is foreign to me. So we have to devise the language people understand. It can't be one cap fit all. So we're really against, we're swimming against the tide, so to speak, when it comes to the issue of trust. And no one believes what you say, they watch what you do. One of the things that we try to do at Probitas Partners is when people come in, we try to have a conversation. What are your plans? Sometimes I want people to be blunt with me. How long are you going to work with me for? Of course, most people will lie. But I've had a gentleman, he told me 6 months. And he said to me, I already got an admission to one university in the US. I said, it's fine, at least I know where I stand. And he worked for me for 2 years, and it was very outstanding. He gave his best. So at that point, you try to find out what their long-term plans are. Sometimes, from my side as well, I don't believe them when they talk. So one of the things I used to figure out their plans, I would be like, can you tell me the other places you've applied to? So if you say you want to practice and be an SAN or a judge, you cannot be applying to a bank. You cannot be applying to Total. Those are two different things. The minute you say that, I know this one is just looking for a job and is going to leave very soon. So at the earliest opportunity, we like to tell them that, this is what we do here. We have these levels, we have a pay grade structure, we have this, we have that, and we do appraisal, and it's quite open. Then the other thing we try to do to calm them down is to say, we do have a partnership equity scheme, which is not a lie. But back to the trust deficit, I've had my hands burnt, when it closed the environment, so I'll be very open. So the first set of associate partners were 2. And I said to them, I know you don't have money. So what I'll do is, you will earn 10% of profit of the firm. Then half of the money you get, you'll be using it to pay for your equity. Then you keep the other half. And because I just saw them, and I was a bit stupid, if I may use that word, I didn't reduce into writing. So because I felt we're family, and what I was doing for you, nobody did it for me. So I felt that was, and that was going back to what I said earlier. So they didn't see it that way. So there was partnership policy, there was everything. So a year or two afterwards, one of them turned and said she resigned. Of course, by then, out of the 10%, so she was earning 10% profit, but she was buying the equity in bits and pieces. So she didn't have the legal right to 10%, but she had right to the profit, 10% of the profit. So she then said, I should pay her for the equity she bought. Mind you, I paid for that equity. It's my money. But I'd made a promise, and I don't want to subject the partnership into crisis. So I said, no problem. In our partnership policy, it says any partner that is leaving, we value the equity when they leave, and we'll pay you quarterly over a period of 5 years. Because when you are talking about equity, what are we talking about? Chair and table. So it's not as if it's a cash lying in the bank. It's goodwill, really. So we'll pay you. Even my own founding partner who retired, that's how we've been paying him for the equity that he had to relinquish. So she said no, that she resigned. She didn't retire. Which was true. But a partnership doesn't envisage resignation, because you're an owner. You understand? You're an owner. You are wearing, and that's part of what I was saying. You are wearing two hats. So she was using the advantage of the employment. Yes. So we dragged it. The advisory board stepped in, and we've been paying her. So I learned from that experience. The second one, I said, now we're going to do an employee share option program or scheme, ESOP, which means you are getting this equity. You are getting the economic benefit, but the legal ownership, which means you cannot transfer it to another person, you cannot sell it, will vest to you based on how long you stay with us. So the first 3 years, 30 or 50% of that equity will devolve to you, will be vested in you. You can sell, you can do whatever you like if you decide to leave. But if you leave before then, you forfeit it. So that was what happened with the last one. And the last one was partly bitter, even though I'm getting over it, because we had another partner that is seriously ill. And I thought, because we're like a family, at least you wait for a year so that we'll sort ourselves out before you leave. And at the same time, she will start competing with the practice. We have a sister company that does training. And she set up a company, and associate that she was meant to be training, she was offering them training services using our material. So the issue of trust deficit, I'm referring to these instances just to buttress how profound and how real it is. And the last person he's still with us. He's been with us for 11 years, and he has done very well. So that's a third. You can say it's a failure. You have 3. One is still with you. There was a lateral hire that we offered similar thing that also left because there was a cultural clash. And we are really against lateral hires. We prefer organic partnership path because of cultural problems. So it's really, really a big problem. The other problem is lack of delayed gratification. The idea that people will work for an employer for 5 years is really becoming outdated. Initially, I was really sad with people leaving and coming. Then I spoke with one HR consultant. I was like, please leave my firm. Generally, how long should I expect someone to work for me for? Generally, he said 8 months. He said in the IT industry is 2 months. So the message is we're in a fast evolving human capital market, and everybody has to sort of outthink the system. One of the things I started doing is, okay, you are going to Canada, no problem. If when you get to Canada, you look for a job for a month or 2 or something. Can you work remotely from Canada? You know, even if you get a job from Canada, as long as we're still friends, you continue working for me in one way or the other. I'm not saying that's the best approach, but I'm saying it's a totally new world, you know, and we have to. So people don't, they don't work for people for long. The lawyer that has been working with us for the longest is 11 years. The closest to him is about 3 years. And when it comes to support staff, they are more stable. One has been with us for 14 years. The youngest is 8 years. And they take the business, they take the practice as their own. Why? Because they are not highly skilled. They don't have as much opportunities outside. And my new thinking in the last 2 months is, those are my partners. So what I need to do, I need to skill them up. You that are just going around the corner to go and buy food and deliver a letter, I'm going to teach you secretarial services. I'm going to teach you how to take minutes and see how I can skill you up to the best of your ability. And so that I reduce what I use lawyers for. In the UK, they've already done it. The paralegal, a big deal, you know, and sometimes I wonder how we're able to live up to 70 or 80 in Nigeria. When you go to a medical doctor in the UK, the only business you have with him is that consultation. Before you get there, you are speaking to one admin person. So you don't know the way, you are booking an appointment, he has no business with you. When you then get to him, he then records his prescription and everything in a dictaphone and give it to an admin person. But in Nigeria, Dr. Karunwi will be the one that will pick my phone. And if he doesn't pick, I'll say he's arrogant. He's not giving me personal touch. Then I'll call him when I'm on Gerard. Dr. Karunwi is in number 14 or 15. Then when I enter, I said, Dr. Karunwi, I'm at your reception. You know, bottom line, we need to make more use of the support staff. We need to make them more front-facing. Those calls should be with the support staff. They should be with the support staff. So I want to skill them up. I want to also sit with them and say, you know, your children, what do they do? Where do you live? And things like that. Because they are really the institution in the office. I think I've mentioned the insane staff turnover rate. Also, one of the challenges that I found with dental practice, which relates to all medical services, is a personal service. It's hardly transferable. Hardly. My doctor, I've been with him since I was a kid. The same doctor. I'm 44. The only time I've ever used any other doctor was when I left this country. And when I came back, I went back. In my office, we have HMO. You know, they are a menace. So my doctor said, you know, he's in his 70s. I don't want to deal with them. They dictate tariffs to me. They mistreat me. They hold on to my money for months as if they are doing me a favor. So I don't need it. You know, I don't need it if you want to come. So I said, you know what? So I'm not enjoying HMO from my office. I pay. And I'm using it to say how much I'm not willing to leave my original doctor, even though financially it doesn't make sense. Because when I get there, we are going to chat for 5 minutes or sometimes 30 minutes. How are you? How is this? How is that? I will go on and I honestly look forward to it. So part of the problem is that it's not transferable. So even if you make someone a partner, when you tell Wale that meet my new partner is the one that will be treating you, the message Wale is getting is okay. So you are rich now, Abi. You don't have my time anymore. And no problem now. You understand? It's me that will go and look for my doctor. It's not you that will introduce me to my doctor. Also, in the handout that I circulated, I was reading Dr. Yomi Fini's autobiography. And he was relating one of the things that made him, that really affected him in practice. When he started doing politics, he wasn't really there, even though he had competent hands. It was really Dr. Finney. People wanted to see, you know, and it's a big problem. And I think the only way forward is you need to ease people in, you know, gently, and perhaps ease them into fresh relationship, you know. So Dr. Folayemi can continue treating Wale. Then when it comes to my son or daughter, we move that one to a fresh person, because Wale is the rock of Gibraltar, is not going to move. So you start transitioning new people to them. I also look for patients that are really amenable, that don't really care. The other challenge is the dental economy. That's what I refer to it as. Just like a law, there's always an argument, whether it's a business or a practice. But at the end of the day, no finance, no romance. Love is not going to take someone to a dinner or buy a ring. You know, so the love of dentistry is not going to sustain people to stay there if the money is not there. The demand is not just there. There's lack of awareness, and the generality of Nigeria just can't afford it. There are some data that I typically use, and I question whether it's right, but I still use them. I always say that the people that are purchasing power for DSTV are not up to 1 million. That the old DSTV subscriber base is no more than 1 million. And out of it, there are offices, there are hotels. And I personally don't know any household with disposable income that doesn't have DSTV. And you can also extrapolate. Husband and wife probably have money, but they don't see the need to get to DSTV decoders. So you can double the number, you know, because typically it's father and mother that would be working. The children typically, the minute they start working, in most cases they leave home. So when you look at that, you can also say almost half of DSTV subscribers will be viewing centers, will be hotels, will be offices. So you multiply that 1 million to 2 million, then you've come back to 1 million. And some in Abuja, some in Lagos. And there are some of them that are on 40,000 per month, 50,000 per month, and you're just paying that 3K or 4K. I don't think I've ever paid less than 20K when I go to a dentist. So a lot of Nigerians can afford that. I may also be wrong. I understand poverty line, the gauge is 20,000 naira if you're earning 20,000 naira a month. And I understand over 70 or 80% of Nigerians are below. So the numbers are really stacked against dentistry. And apart from that, when things are worrying people, yeah, your tooth is one of those things that happens every 3 or 4 years, compared to malaria that happens every 6 months and that. So unlike other component of the healthcare system, dentistry service is not one of those things that occur as regularly as the others. And I think, I'm aligned with Dr. Smith that is just the middle class to upper class, that use these services. So affordability is a challenge. Awareness is also a challenge. The NHIS and HMO situation is also a challenge because that would have been a good way to fund it. And when we speak later, and maybe I should say it now, this association is an interest group. And you have to get political, not join a political party. But in your interest, what's your interest? NHIS. What is happening? If there are 2 presidential candidates, not one of them, both PDP, APC, you need to give them your wish list. And you get there, this is what we want you to do if you want our people to vote for you. I think we have to be a bit more pushy. You more or less, and it's happening in the legal profession. Those days are gone. When someone is coming from abroad, he's a lawyer. In the whole of Shomolu is the only lawyer. His name is lawyer. The minute they say lawyer, everybody knows who we are talking about. When he lands at Papa Port, they are drummers, they are shouting. So he's a big man. Every year, law school churns out about 5,000 lawyers. So the idea, and the barrier to entry to the profession is very low. Whether you like it or not, you are competing against those 5,000 and the ones that have been called to the bar before. So the idea that you sit in your office or in your practice and client will come, it's changing. There are ethics to follow. You are not meant to solicit. You are not meant to do things. You are not meant to do that. But there are ways of sort of stimulating demand and creating the finance. It's just like the builders. They'll say to you, we have this property to sell and we are going to take you to GTB. They will fund you. So we have to find a way to make our services affordable for regular people and to find who is going to fund it. The NHIS as a model is not bad. The operation and the execution is another kettle of fish. So we have the law. We have the system. We need to find a way with other medical sector bodies to really push. I don't think, because this has the ripple effect across board. It affects your ability to keep your associate. It affects your ability to even sustain yourself, your quality of life. If you have to work more hours than you should work, I mean, when would you spend the money? So it's really, really important we look at that. HMO are really a menace, and there is a quote. I don't know if you can help me put it up. I think it's a slide, a quote by Dr. Yomi Fini, and I'd like to read from it. It has not been a very pleasant experience. This is in reference to HMOs. Although we feel there is a definite need for the scheme as NHIS, the HMOs do what they like and they don't pay the bills regularly. They cut hospital bills recklessly. The people running these services seem to see it as an opportunity to make a lot of money. Regrettably, they end up behaving as if they want to close down the hospitals. They pay very poor tariffs from which hospital hardly make profit. They insist on very high quality service that costs a lot. And then they delay payment for up to 8 months, meaning that hospitals must get into financial constraint to pay salaries, restock on medicine and maintain services before they get the bills settled. This also leads to delay in staff salaries. I deliberately read this because I think that health insurance system is really key. It's not a silver bullet, but how can you? I can be very aggressive. How can you take over the HMOs? How can you take over NHS? How? It is possible. You have friends that are bankers, you have friends that are politicians. You know, it's really important. And it's an existential issue. It's a survivor issue. I'm not sure if there's any other choice. What's the way forward? For on weak corporate governance structure, typically would recommend an exhaustive partnership policy that covers everything. That also includes an advisory board, and that advisory board, their mandate should deal with reviewing your strategic growth plans, admission of new partners, review performance metrics for partners, appraisal of performance of partners, succession planning, and dispute resolution. And I'll share my own experience. I've just mentioned how I don't do anything strategic until it's like a week. You know, then I start reading about the economy, about everything. It puts me on my toes. And sometimes I'm overly ambitious. Sometimes I'm not ambitious enough. For example, the last 5-year plan that I gave them, there was nothing like applying for SCN inside. And they looked at me and they said, Wale, we need 2 SCNs in this office in the next 5 years. You know, so I've found it quite helpful in pushing me forward. Admission of new partners. After speaking to someone, I have to go and sit with them. Even though it's an advisory board, because we've contracted it, unless the partners gang up against them, you know, any partner can hold the other one to it in a court of law and say the advisory board did not approve this, you are in breach of contract. They also review performance of the partners, and they also look at succession planning. And dispute resolution has also been very, very good for us. The last one, and we're speaking here, was with my founding partner. You know, he decided to retire and do something else. He went into Islamic finance. And it then became a case of he wanted to still have an office in the building. So So you are not going to be using the office, and I have a social partner that can use that office. And partnership policy is very clear. We should provide you an office as a retired partner if we have. So after we argue, we say, okay, let's go and meet the chairman of the advisory board. So we went and he said, if Wale does what you are asking him to do, he will be unhappy. If you allow Wale to do what you want, you too will be unhappy. So let's go by what the agreement said. And that's how we resolved it. With the other lady as well that was giving us issues, she started writing to them. And of course, they took me up that this woman is asking for her money. Where is her money? Then I explained myself, and they asked the board secretary, who are also independent, DCSL, to write her and say, you know what, this is what they think. And contractually, she's bound to go and meet them. If she goes to court, the suit will be incompetent. So I found them quite helpful. And one of the things that we've done with them is make sure so I'm the only person in day-to-day management that is on that board. My founding partner, who is retired, is sitting there. Then the other three. Very diverse board. The chairman is Engineer Vincent Maduka. He's about 85, but he looks like a 60-something-year-old man, and he's quite engaging. He was still lecturing in LBS until about 2 years ago. He said he had to retire because he was getting depressed with the quality of exam scripts he was marking. So, so they said the only thing he wants to do is executive education. I give it to you. If you know it, you know it. I don't want to mark anybody's script. The other person is architect Tayo Babalaki, and there is Dayo Oluwole. I'm saying this because the three of them are not lawyers, because we can't have competitors on our board, and we're sharing things with them. And what they are doing is not legal service. It's really strategy and oversight. I don't need a lawyer to do that. So I would advise, if you want to put one together, typically someone from the old profession, that the ethics are similar. I know doctors too, they rarely visit clients and all those things. Then they are from 3 different generations. So Engineer Maduka is in his 80s, Architect Babalaki in his 50s, Dayo Oluwole is in her 40s. So those sort of diversities are also important in terms of the quality of advice that you get. That's as far as advisory board is concerned. How do you address the issue of human capital, the lack of human capital and brain drain? I have some suggestions. They might be silly since I'm not in your profession. I think you can consider searching for people that are already running their own practice. Perhaps smaller, but they have verifiable and demonstrable track record of technical ability. Some of them, it might not be so financially savvy. Some of them are not just as fortunate, because any profession that caters for people in the middle class and upper class is also a bit elitist. You might not have gone to Igbobi College or KC, so he's not really getting that clientele, but he's good at what he does. And he will be happy if he doesn't have to be dealing with paying rent and everything. That limits your exposure to someone living. A lot of people are also confused about what they want to do. They might not be leaving you in bad faith. They just don't know what they want to do. They keep doing an elimination process. They'll go here, they go there. They are not clear. So sometimes let's look for people that are clear about what they want to do and they have, because of trust deficit that I referred to, you have a track record antecedent that you can refer to gauge your to guide your decision. Also, strategic alliance is something that I would also encourage. For example, which is you have someone in Abuja that is a dentist. You know, if you have strategic alliance, you can have a system where whenever any of your clients find themselves in Abuja with toothache, you know, that's where they go. And when their own people are in Lagos as well, you know, and you can reduce that into writing. You can share ideas. You've done your staff handbook. You paid 1 million or 750 or 500K. They don't need to do another one. You can save them money by sharing your processes. You can also partner on trainings. You can use the clinic space, you know, and it might be that they will pay for it, but there's a lot of ways that you should collaborate. I'm not big on mergers, sadly. You know, I was big on it before, but my advisory board stopped me in my track. They said to me, it's very expensive if you want to do it properly. One, you guys have to be sure you start with name. So which name are we going to be using if you are merging and Christie and Jobs? And as simple as that sound, it can be a deal breaker. Your troops, someone that is a senior associate with you, I might think that the person is not worth more than an associate. Dr. Kanwe and Dr. Smith might be best of friends. The troops might not be able to stand each other for whatever reason, because normally he has one-on-one with Dr. Kanwe. Now he has to go through Wale to speak to Dr. Kanwe because of one merger. You know, so the evaluation, you know, can be a bit subjective. A very interesting one is the acquisition of merger of Bond Bank. I don't know if you remember Bond Bank. They have very, very good brand, very good logo. It was a young bank. And I think the value of that brand was quite high when they were doing the merger. And there's no one way of valuing goodwill. It's one of the most difficult things to value. You can value it from the money you spent to make it. That one is quantifiable. I paid 1 billion to Lintas. I paid this, I paid that. It could be, you can look at how much someone paid for similar brand when they bought it. And you can use, but it's very subjective. So we measure particularly equal partners. If you want to properly do it, you are going to go for, you call a neutral person as a consultant, you go for sessions, retreat, and it can leave a bad taste in your mouth if you decide not to go. So I had about 2 or 3 people that we had some sort of quite strategic alliance. They refer people to me, I refer people to them, and I thought I could take it up a notch. So I was very excited. I went to my board. I said, these 2 people. They said, we don't think so. We think we can see the benefit, but you know, it's going to take you back if there's a clash. It's going to distract you. You are better off looking for a smaller partner that you would acquire, if I may use that word. So the person will be plugged into your culture, into your everything, maybe a 1-man or 2-man dentistry dental practice. The other thing for me, which is a consideration, I think there's a worldwide a presumption that big is always better. Everybody's chasing scale. In the legal profession, the way to determine how big a law practice is to say, how many lawyers do you have? Because you don't have access to their financials, so you can't use their revenue. So the only thing you can tell from the outside is the number of lawyers. So everyone is chasing scale. But in your profession or in your space, in a situation where there is lack of human capital, is chasing scale really practicable? Won't you be overworking a few people? Won't you be sacrificing your health and your own family life? So for me, big is not always better. And this is a new thinking in the last 2-3 months for me. I've always had the dream within 5 years, I would be a 50-man law firm. 5 partners. We already have about 3, 2 more will come in. Each one is handling one area of law, handling about 10 lawyers, and they cater for that practice line. It was pretty achievable in theory. But if I look at the environment where I'm operating in Nigeria. What I'm saying is fine in the books, but this is where I do my business. Is it really possible? It's not as if the ideas that I have are wrong, but not in this place. So my new thing is, I'm sorry, I don't have the capacity to take your brief. I can take you to this next person. And if you insist that I should do it, you pay double, then me and that person will do it. But I just don't have the capacity to take this on, because I also need time for myself. I need to do things, So big is not always better. You don't want to overwork yourself at the expense of your health. You should keep your costs down, be lean and mean. For example, in my office now, our inverter, we don't put on the generator until about 11, unless we have a client. Then when the client leaves, then by 4, we switch it on. Just very small things like that to cause the overhead. Refer patients to strategic partners, like I mentioned, if you have a strategic alliance. I will also recommend a book. It's called Company of One. Why Staying Small is the Next Best Thing in Business, by Paul Jarvis. And I think the moral is that people that stay small, they have better quality of life than people that chase scale. And there are a lot of companies that I look around that were doing quite well on their own as small organizations, not necessarily dental practice or law practice. Bankers will come and meet them and say, you can do more. Here is 2 billion. And they start swimming against the tide of 40% a year, or 50% or whatever the interest rate is. It's also important to inspire your troops. Your troops, I mean people working with you, the associates. You lead by example. You lead from the front. They watch you. You can't be saying one thing and be doing another thing. You need to be open about the plans for them from the onset. It shouldn't be a guesswork. They shouldn't be shadow boxing. Saying, what is it going to do? What is it going to say? It should be very, very clear. And the system should be very transparent. Someone resigned yesterday in my office. The theory that made him resign, what I call walking dead. I've given him 2 queries. And the 3 queries, he admitted, he apologized. So he knew it's only a matter of time. And because it's a transparent process, he came to me himself, even though I was still going to keep him on. So he came, he said that he's found a major job and he's leaving. It's because the system is transparent. he knew fully well that I'm not going to sack him, even if I don't like him. He hasn't gone through that process. And even if I love you, if you've gone through that process, you know it's a matter of time. I've had to sack people that I will pay for about 3 months after I sack them, because I like them personally and they'll still visit me. But because I like you, doesn't mean I'm going to give you a job as an architect when you are not an architect. I can give you money, you can go party together, but you can't do this job. I'm sorry. The system has to be transparent. There's something I refer to as mutually assured destruction. Avoid bitterness when people are leaving. I call it mad. It's easier for employees to come back to your practice if they respect you. They can also refer patients to you. When they go to wherever they are going and they can't survive, it's easier for them to come back. When they travel abroad and they decide to come back to Nigeria, it's easier for them to come back. While they've left, when there are certain services that you think they are better doing, or when you are overwhelmed, you can give it to them. I also tell them that I'm your ambassador as much as you are my ambassador. If I mess up my practice, your CV will be useless. Because when you go to a law firm and they see Probitas Partners on it, they say, we don't want anybody from that place. What they are teaching them in that place is cancerous. We don't need it here. So I can destroy your career even when you leave here. And you too can destroy my career. So I always tell them when I hear one of my former associates running their office doing the wrong thing, I'll send another one that I'll go and tell him that we didn't teach him that 1 year. Because everybody will be asking him, where did you used to work? He used to work at Probitas. You are damaging my name, even though you've left. So what I do with my career, even after you've left, affects you. And what you do affects them. So try to cultivate a spirit of fellowship. You know, there should be an alumni, if possible. If possible, a WhatsApp group, you know, even if they are abroad, so that it's still possible to do things together along the partnership line, if possible. Also, when it comes to talent, for me, it's cradle to the grave. You start scouting from when they are born. You start, my daughter started coming to my office when she was 1.5. If you put her in front of the building, she will find, if you are taking her into another office, she'll be dragging you to go into my office. She has a small chair and table. I was trying to use that to make the place palatable for her. And I have she's one of the resident interns. I have people in secondary schools, in universities, that I don't need to call them. They don't need to call me when they are home. Uncle Ali, I'm coming tomorrow. You can see them in the front desk, you know, and as they are growing up, they are getting used to the profession and they are very clear whether they want to practice or not. It's very sad when people come out of law school and they tell you they don't know what they want to do. You know, and don't be surprised, there are a lot of dentists that don't know what they want to do. So engaging them and being friendly with them early on helps them through the process. In our own office, if I use it as an example, we've institutionalized our internship system. It includes school pupils from primary school. We have what we call teenagers internship program. So they come at 10 o'clock, they leave at 1. They do basic things, go and get the file, go and do this, go and do that. They ask questions. We give them John Grisham to go and read. Then they come and ask questions. We give them some legal terms, go and check dictionary for what it means. And they come for like a week or 2. And they are very proud that they are going. Sometimes they wear tie when they come. And this idea was, I got the idea from reading about certain people. Most of the people that have changed a lot of professions started in their teens. Warren Buffett was a big investor in his teens. By 13 or 14 years old, he had a farm where he was collecting rent. He was controlling newspaper routes. You know, he put people on Isaac John. Then you collect rent on their head. The same thing with Steve Jobs. The same thing with Bill Gates. The same thing with Mike Tyson. The same thing, you know, there's a proverb in Yoruba, and I apologize to people that are not Yorubas. They say, that means you cannot have tribal mark in your old age because nobody will allow anybody to give them tribal mark. It's very painful. So it's when the person is young that you can put tribal mark. So I found out that when people are young, they are easier to train. And by the time they leave law school, you know what you are getting. As a matter of fact, we offer employment. We've offered at least 3 or 4 employment to people from universities before they went to law school. Because before they even left university, they were doing things lawyers were doing. So we give you an employment that is subject to you passing law school. Then as part of that employment, we pay for your law school. And we got that from what the consulting companies do abroad. You know, by the time you're in your second year, they give you an employment. They ask your lecturer to predict your score. But you cannot start the job until you pass. But it doesn't matter what you get sometimes. And sometimes it's subject to what you get because they are competing with other people and they need to lock in early so that other people don't take you. So we have the graduate one as well for people in university that are in between law school. And you have people that have finished law school that are at home as well. They don't have a job, you know, so I ask them to come in for 1 month, you know, so that they just don't stay at home. Lastly, it's more than money. I've mentioned it before. One thing is very clear on human capital. It takes more than remuneration for anyone to tie their future to an organization for life. There will always be better offers out there. Always, no matter how much you pay people. Money is important, but it's not everything. It's a very, very big ask. And that takes us to what model is the best. I don't know, and I don't pretend to know, but I was shocked when I was doing my research that history is very kind to family ownership. And your BMW, your Ferrari, your Goldman Sachs, and many others. Not much statistics in Nigeria, but a lot of family businesses account for 60% of the total US employment, 78% of new jobs, 65% of wages paid, amongst others. In Nigeria, I know that the Isiaku abuse, they've been going on for quite a while. Even the Dantata, arguably, they've done about 3 generations. The scale is not there. I think in the medical line, the St. Nicholas, I don't know. I'm just looking at it from the outside, so I might be totally wrong. I guess it's still a family business. I think it's 2nd generation. I would imagine they will be on their way to the 3rd generation. You know, so however way you look at it, they stand a chance. Even the FRA Williams of this world, in spite of their dispute, the law firm is still standing. And it's a family law firm. And I will not bet against them to go into the 3rd generation. And just like I was saying, if it was about money, they would have walked away, all of them, because they are relatively comfortable. I need to be fighting here. Let me just go and set up. But there's family pride. There's a legacy issue. This is what our father worked for. We can't walk away. And I think family ownership is It's becoming very attractive. And when I say attractive, your children don't need to be interested in dentistry. They don't need to be. I can manage a dentistry, arguably. I just cannot operate on a patient. There's a difference. So I don't have the license. I can't do it. But, they need to be interested in the business side of things. They need to know what is happening in the field. I have another analogy. My grandmother, I saw a statement of account, Union Bank, with about 100,000 naira. And I spent almost $1 million to get the letters of administration. You understand? I mean, I knew what she was doing. She was a school matron, then she retired. She was selling soft drinks. Then you want to chop her money. No. It goes beyond money. And that's one of the things that you gain from family. I think I mentioned Chris Ogunbanjo as well. I think they stand a good chance as well. They are still standing. I know B.A. Augusto is probably in the second generation. They stand a good chance as well, if any of the grandchildren are interested. For me, the winner is Akitola Williams. I went into a restaurant and the man walked in at 99 back then. And it was like this, and I was in awe. That man retired in 1983. And that firm has gone from him to the Sankeys of this world, to the Oyetolas of this world, to the Kazobos of this world, and is still standing in one way or the other. And I think in 2004, it had about 600 accountant or staff strength. Now, if I put that in perspective with law, that's something else. The biggest law firm that I know of in Nigeria is Aluko Anoibode in terms of size. They have about 90 lawyers, so you have 600. So that's Akitola Williams. And one of the things that Baba did, he was doing a lot of partnerships within partnership. So you have someone in Enugu that is independent, but it's Akitola Williams. You have someone in Swaziland that is independent. So Akitola Williams in Lagos is in partnership with Akitola Williams in Enugu. And how they share, I've seen the partnership did before, quite sophisticated, so a lot of people were leveraging on the name, on the goodwill. And I think there are some big law firms as well around the world. I think there's Baker McKenzie, or what's their name? When they are having their AGM, like 5,000 people from all over the world, So we need to look at how we can start with strategic alliance and see whether we can build up scale under a name that is easily marketable and people can still have some level of control over their own practice, even though a lot of people will be big about maintaining the name at the door. And that's big for them. For us, Probitas Partners, what's our scorecard? And I'm going to reel it out to just say one thing. There will be false starts. There will be mistakes. There will be letdowns. There will be disappointment. But your commitment to the survival of the firm, your commitment to your profession in terms of training people, your commitment to your country, because if there's no dentist in Nigeria, that's not good for the country. Should continue to be your driving force, because there is that attraction to kick away the ladder and close the door and say, you know what, I'm cool, I'm fine, I don't need this. I think it's important. For us, between 2015 and 2022, we've done 3 organically produced partners and 1 lateral. Only 1 is remaining. So you can say we got 25% over 100. You can say it's a failure. You have 2 founding partners. 1 is active, 1 is consulting for us, business development, fire brigade work, and advisory. We're currently talking to former partners. One of them is my niece. She trained with us. She's practicing on her own. You know, I told her I'll come back home. You know, so that's one of the attractions. And also, she's still part of the firm, even though she's on her own. So I have people that I refer cases to when I'm conflicted. She's one of them, and she still handles them with the values that we imbibed in her. You know, and I don't hide it. She's one of my executors. You know, I started writing with when I'm 40. I'm on my 3rd version or 4th version. You know, so, but I'm not forcing it. You know, and but when discussions, she might not come eventually. You know, but it's an option. Bottom line, you can look at people that worked with you. Why am I referring to them? They understand your culture. They understand your work style. You are the one that trained them. You know what to expect. The risk factor is lower, you know, and that's the attraction. So we're talking today, and the fact that we have people on the outside that are aligned is important. The last time I went to Kano, one of them got his associate in Kano to pick me up from the airport. I had to beg the guy to leave me alone with the level of treatment he was giving me. We have to diversify. We have a diversified practice. We have a tax and management consulting arm, SQS consulting, and we're into publication as well. And I'm mentioning this because there are a lot of spin-offs in your field beyond just treating patients, if you look closely. So personally, I'm staying longer than I planned. You know, I was very ambitious. I thought I could walk out of the door at 45 and go and do something else. I have some models that I don't know personally that I respect. One of them is Chris Okeke, and one of them is Emmanuel Ijewere. I'm in awe about how many lives they've lived within one life. You know, Chris Okeke, after Ajumogobi and Okeke, he has gone on to be a farmer. He has gone to Brazil to be an ambassador. I don't know what he's doing now. Emmanuel Ijewere, you know, chartered accountant, headed ICANN, has done Red Cross. I think he's doing farming now. And I know he's quite big in IOD as well. Because also, and this you probably know better than me, my mom struggled with dementia a bit before she passed on, and I read a bit about it. Apparently, when you are getting into about 40, you need to start doing something new, because what you've been doing, by the time you do something for about 20 years, is no longer mentally challenging for you. So if you give me a 1,000-page agreement, I know where the bodies are buried. You know, I'll go straight to it, and I can pass the rest to the backroom people. So it's no longer as challenging as it is. And that means my brain is not as challenged and engaging. So it was important for me when I get to a certain stage to start and do something else. But based on what is happening, it's like, as I'm talking to you now, it's like we're starting all over again, you know, but because there is structure, it's easier. You know, the values are there, the paperwork are there. So, you know, one can do it. So the conclusion is there's no silver bullet to the issue of partnership and succession in private dental practice. However, a deep commitment to overcome the stacked odds is fundamental. The road is littered with a lot of false start mistakes and letdowns. However, it's easier to recover from the speed bumps and get back on the road to your destination with a good support system. You just have to keep making an effort. You owe it to the profession and Nigeria to leave the door open for deserving staff, despite the letdowns that would invariably, and I repeat, invariably threaten your vision. Like I mentioned earlier on, it's not about the money. Any fool can make money. Thank you very much. And
Thank you very much, Mr. Wale Irokosu. Another round of applause for him. May I assume that the PhD is on the way, because it appears you might not escape that part. You have to pass it on and spread it. Please, another round of applause for him. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I am very sure we are all glad and we understand that now the floor is open. The question and answer sessions are extremely important. And thank you, Mr. Wale. Also, online, you got another, it looks like you've just gained a client and I'm in trouble. And the client is my wife, a psychiatrist. So I think the manner in which you're going with the question and answers, to direct it to either of the two of our distinguished speakers. Now, I'm sure from what we've heard, the choice or the choices we made are very clear why the two distinguished speakers are selected. I'm sure we don't have any regrets and we understand that. So can we take the questions and answers opinion? We're going to take the physical one now, then we'll take those on the Zoom that are with us.
Thank you so much, our presenters. I'm Dr. Evelyn Eshikena, the Medical Director, PIV Dental Clinic, and also the immediate past President, Nigerian Dental Association. I just want to say thank you for speaking truth to us, both presenters, Dr. Gbadebo Smith and Mr. Irokosu. I'm very grateful and happy that I'm here, and I didn't miss this. But mine is just a comment and a bit of a contribution to all that we have been doing since yesterday. I want to also thank the leadership of APDPN for all the work and the plans in place for us to drive private dental practice in Nigeria as it is. My comment or questions has to do with, which I align a lot with what Mr. Irokosu said about our environment. The situation in Nigeria and what we have in saying, I'll put in quote, other societies where things work, as aligned with what Dr. Gbadebo Smith gave to us, the talk and all that we have in plan. Based on my experience or my learnings when I served publicly as president of Nigerian Dental Association, I came to see that when groups want to plan, we should be very careful when we are at this kind of challenging stage we are in now and in taking decisions for the future. From my finding, I discovered some of the words that we in medical practice, we are fighting in Nigeria today, and the systems we have is based on the facts, is from some of the decisions some of our leaders or our past our elders did on our behalf. One is with the MDCN, and it has to go with the current practice license we are paying now, and the issue with medical and dental, the dues or the monies split we are trying to get from them. I got to know that it was as a result of, initially doctors are not meant to pay dues because it is fully funded by the government, but the association went to MDCN to negotiate that. So we know all that has been happening along that line. Another one in line is with the Association of Private Medical Practitioners in Nigeria, the issues they're having with EFEMA. It was also the association that went to this government body to do something so that its members can be in line. And then at the end of today, now there's a case in courts in that line. What I'm trying to say here is when we want to take decisions, we should, I think at this stage, it should be decisions that our association can see how we can put out representation out there where policies are being made that will affect our profession positively. So I'm going to come back to competitive bargaining and pricing. We know that we have to, which it's the line in which the presentation I did yesterday came as to our quality has to do a lot with what we have invested into the business. So if we want to take a decision collectively as to pricing, we have to take note of the various status, socioeconomic areas of the clinic, where they are based, what they have invested into the business, the area where they are positioned. That will help. We can take a blanket decision on that so that it can help the younger ones to grow up also. But I really support the fact that we can go out there as a force, as an association, as an organization, to see how we can influence policies. I got in touch with the PRO not too long ago. Policies are being chunked out that we must work under. We are not part of those who were there to take that decision. So they don't really understand how it affects us, because our own part of the health sector is a bit different from the other medical practitioners. Like Loma now saying you must have 4 beans in each surgery. And I was like, how can each surgery will have 4 beans? But when I looked at the list of those who took that decision, no dentist was there. So we have to see how we can now begin to go out. That's just the little contribution I have to say. Thank you so
very
much.
much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Once again, I count myself very lucky to be here. This is the kind of program that we should be having at this level of our practice. It is business-like, and you cannot just come here without quite a lot of takeaway. I'm so scared. And the truth is that the way I walk, I'm wondering how it should be sustained. For example, if I cannot walk like this again. I've tried partnership since 1994. I've called about 2 dentists to join me. And I was so naive that I will even give them the chance of dictating the conditions. At times, I will ask them to even call lawyers. But I discovered that they are not as patient as I am. My elders here will know and will reveal to us that it doesn't go easy. You have to acknowledge that you go from stage to stage. And you know what is funny? I started my practice in a hospital, pre-existing hospital. The owner happens to be a renowned orthopedic surgeon. He just told me, you need so much space, come and take a space here and then start practicing. And it was fine. Now he had to build his own bigger hospital. And I said to myself, it will not be proper for me again to go. So I decided to stay alone. But I discovered that working in an hospital setting has like enlarged the span of my practice. Like people want to see me on weekends and whatever, because it was in hospital setting. And I said to myself, why can't I go into partnership with somebody again with whom we can run an hospital? So I went and registered an hospital, called a young man who just left NITEL. NITEL was going down, and then we came together. And will you believe that since 2006 until now, that partnership has stayed, myself and a medical doctor. And we are doing very well, no problem. I run the place. we have the conditions on. But even within that partnership, to get a dentist, to not come and work as locum or come work 2-3 years and go, to even key into what I was able to do with a medic has been difficult. The first thing I discovered is that there seems to be a generational difference. Younger guys are coming. The way you practice is not the way they practice. Even everything is tied to money. You want to make sacrifice even as the owner of the practice, but these younger ones are not ready. Then the knowledge gap too, we have been discussing this ever since. I don't know how theory of practice will take the place of practice. These are issues. So instead of me, if I say I succeed very well in running a hospital in partnership with a medic, why is it not difficult that one cannot easily do with younger colleagues? So I have a way forward. I think now that we know that this is a reality we all must face, and you said something, and that's why I said I'm scared. We either cooperate and survive and succeed, or we go all alone saying that I have the ego, and we, God forbid, perish. I think we begin to close ranks. There is beauty and an advantage in our number. We are not so many. If you mention a dentist in Ibadan, you are likely going to be able to know him or her or somebody who knows him. And likewise in Lagos, despite the relatively more population here. Why can't we begin to look at closer ranks then? That instead of this practice going into extinction, is it possible to begin to maybe give out franchise of practices? Yeah, to younger colleagues who are in practice. So instead of me looking for a greenhorn who will come in and take, perhaps I've been in practice for 27 years now. This is my 28th year, practicing privately without working anywhere else. Can I get somebody maybe who is in practice just thriving in the last 10 years or maybe 8 years? And then we say, okay, how do we come together? I will begin to do that. And somebody just mentioned maybe that the association becomes like a temporary advisory board who can begin to look at how does that works. The truth is that even when we go to back and forth, he said family business seems to be the best. But then here we are. Just one person raised his or her hand to say that his or her child is a dentist. But we have just been told that this is not even when they read dentistry that they can take over. So why don't we begin to look at people we know that we can work with for the sustenance of the practice? These are my areas of concern.
Good afternoon. This is Dr. Latry again. Okay, so my question was partly answered by the second speaker, but I'll still go ahead and ask. With what the last dentist said, there's two sides to this. There's the principal dentist that owns the practice and wants the younger dentist as a partner. But there's also the younger dentist that is willing to grow the practice but wants to be reassured. And like he said, it's a trust thing. So my question is, Mr. Wale, sorry. Mr. Wale said it is trust thing. So my question is this: can the organization, this organization, have some rules of ethics on ground wherein when both parties, because so far as I know, and I'm sure as many people know, because I actually interact with a few dentists, my generation and younger, this exists only informally. The dentist is taking on, an associate dentist, works, is given the vision, runs with the vision, is dedicated, grows the practice, and on a knee-jerk reaction is dropped on the side. That's why I said it's a two-way thing. And this person is not compensated for all that sacrifice. That is why we have the brain drain. That is why we have people not wanting to partner. That is why we have dentists going into other practices, into other things. I think I'm in a generation that's in between the older people that have had the thriving practices and the young people still coming up and coming out of school or have worked for people, have dedicated 7-6 years to carry your vision, grow your practice, and you suddenly decide that someone has better experience with more procedures or on a knee-jerk reaction of a personal issue, cuts this person aside without a dime. So I think the association needs to come into this. And on the other side too, like the Prof said, the patient, the owner has someone they've trained, spent money on, spent time on, and then the person decides on a knee-jerk reaction or because I can feel our relationship is going south or I have a better opportunity, my wife wants me to move, breaks that trust. What are you going to give back after the person has devoted years to you?
Let me give it to Wale. He was nodding and shaking his head.
Thank you very much. I think, like I said, it's a two-way traffic, but I'd like us to look at the solution so that we don't overflog the issue, which is quite profound. I think cultural reorientation is important for both sides. You know, people that are respected needs to, you know, at this sort of forum, you know, educate people that, you know, what you are doing on both sides is polluting the water for people that want to drink. If you don't want to drink, don't pollute the water, you know, so that needs to be there. I also believe in what I call moral suasion. By the time you have people that are respected, like when, you know, F.R. Williams in his lifetime, the chauffeurs, people, they're like, you know, if you're in court and you are badly dressed, Mr. Akande chauffeur will just stop you. Say, come here. He won't even talk to the person that is badly dressed. He'll go to his friend that is talking to him. Why are you talking to him? Can't you see the way he's dressed? So we need to start ostracizing people. You understand? Because people have mastered the legal system. They notice it doesn't work. They're going to sue now. We need to let them know that the effect is going to happen quicker. They are not going to be able to come to this place. KCO boys, you won't be able to enter. If your child wants to go to St. Xavier, it's a problem because of your character. So the society needs to start pushing back. That's what I would like to say to that, because I noticed that even though I'm a lawyer, I think we overflog and we overestimate how efficient our legal system is. We need to start rethinking, you know, what needs to be done. There are people that when they call me, I can't say no to. I have an uncle that told me once, if you speak someone's call, I said, well, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you. So you are going to go and call him and go and explain yourself. More or less, if you don't go, if you have a problem, don't call me. You know, so there are people within the society that have those sort of stature that if we sell this vision to, that look, this is happening, and we need you from time to time to help us call people to order. I think that is what I think. And even the associate as well, they need to be spoken to. You understand? One came to me yesterday. He said he was leaving. The one that I said was a walking dead and decided to just jump. He said he wants to go for his master's. So because of that, he's resigning and he's taking up a job with a tech company. I said, you see, whether you live here or you don't, I owe you a duty. these are your problems. Part of it, you just did it. You say you are resigning because you are doing a master's, but you are going to another job. It's a bloody lie. You know, I'm in VIA, you are going to Ikoyi. What's the difference to Akoka? You know, I took the time to explain to him. I said, everybody is going to leave this office, including me. So you're not doing anything new. You understand? It's either I leave this place by design or by default when I die. We're all living. So don't be lying, because it's obvious. About 4 people have left to Canada, but they are still in Nigeria. You know, so my associate partner was telling me that one brought a letter, referral for Unity Bank. Say, this is Unity Bank now. You understand? So we need to take the time and do cultural reorientation. Don't just say, I'm not going to do it, or I'm going to do it and not talk to the person. Sit the person down. Now, do you understand that this chips away at your credibility? You can find a thief that is credible. He's going to tell you, he's not going to beat you. Just going to say, Oga, I have a gun. I want the money in your pocket. Do you understand? Instead of beating the person, what does that have to do with the money you want to collect? So I think there's a big gap in cultural orientation, because sometimes I remember one experience I had in the UK. I jumped the light and the policeman stopped me. He said that I jumped the light. That do I understand that if the other person waiting for the amber and green light decides to move at the right time, I could have been killed. And he just explained to me. And he didn't even give me any ticket or anything. Since that day till today, I don't jump red light, because they've explained to me in my self-interest. He didn't beg me. He just told me that you are going to die if you continue doing this. So by the time you orientate someone that you come here and lie, you come and see still equipment. You don't know your child will come here for employment. You don't know you need reference. You don't know you need this and that. So a lot needs to be done with cultural reorientation so that people understand there is a continuous assessment process. Because you are leaving my office, it's not the end of the world. As I am talking to you, the person that trained me as a lawyer, I can write any letter and get him to sign in his letterhead. I have the letterhead in my office. And he can call me at any time, you know, because I didn't leave in a bad way. I could have left in a bad way. I set up. And there was one day, I was a bit of a rascal. I Skyped off work, which means I was a trance. And he saw me on the way. You know, when he got to the office, he noticed they were having chambers meeting. When I got back, he said, Wale, come. You went out. When they were having chamber meeting, you know. And forgotten what I was going to say. So the bottom line is you have to reorientate people. You know, so when not when I got back, I was with my girlfriend and he called me and he was blasting me on the phone. And when I dropped the phone, my girlfriend said, don't mind him, Joseph, you've set up now. I said, and so, is that the way to live? Do I want him to sack me? You understand? So there's a way people burn the bridge when they are getting off it, as if there's no tomorrow. And people need to know that there's tomorrow. I've had a case before that has been settled by the client, and the judge decides that he wanted to mess up my client. I had to go and meet my former boss. That chief, see me see trouble. He said there's a valedictory tomorrow for a retired judge or retiring judge. Come there. They saw the judge. They were contemporary. Said, my lord, this. They look at me. Said, don't do that anymore. I said, yes, sir. And that was the end. So it is important. We need to, people understand self-interest. Don't tell them it's good or bad. You need to identify, highlight the cost of stealing things and doing things in a certain way. Thank you.
I want to go to the point that Dr. Latre has made. Some of the most powerful institutions are informal institutions. We don't need to go to court to arbitrate issues. The association is strong enough, in my view, that if they set up a formal arbitral process, when there's a dispute, they can step in. I really like the idea of your advisory board. I think this association can play that role very, very readily. However, I think we also need to be careful that we do draw up a code of ethics. There's an ethical deficit in medical practice, culture. Everybody's trying to sneak under the radar. And we need to understand that we are getting ever closer to this, what I can describe as an event horizon. A place where beyond that point, there is no comeback. The profession is getting to a point where if we don't invest in training, if we don't invest in mentoring, if we don't invest in support structures, we will all go down. And I can assure you, even if you have a child or a relation that is a practicing professional, it doesn't mean that person wants to work with you or work in your setup. Dreams differ. I think it's late for us to attempt the collective grab at the decision-making arrangement. I think it's late. That horse has already bolted. HMOs, most of them are failing anyway as a business. And part of the problem, of course, is the same lack of trust amongst owners, partners, and so on. I'm beginning to hear things like HMOs demanding bribes from dentists. You are already charging $3 for a service, and somebody wants out of it, and you don't understand that this is suicidal.
Thank you, sir. We have a question here. But for people online, if you have questions, please show by raise of hand.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Ukun Tekim. I'm the principal of Exclusive Smile Clinic. I'd like to make a comment, but let me start by telling the story. We're talking about partnerships and trust and all that. Very, very important. 11 years ago, I arrived, I relocated back to the country. And in about 2 weeks, Dr. Smith employed me. When he employed me, I couldn't do a root canal. We spoke. He said, what can you do? What can you not do? Okay, no problem. Dr. Smith literally held my hand for 3 months. He told me, I want you to cut 40 access cavities at number 20, no, at number 30. He said, okay, I'm satisfied with your access and all that. Now I want you to go and obturate all of them. Out of that 30, by number 15, he said, okay, you can go and start seeing my patients. And even then, he will still come. So what I'm trying to say is that for him, honestly, that experience really, for me, it changed my perception of what it is to be a dentist and how you can mentor people, how you can, guide. So it's so much inspired me now. I gave my all. Unfortunately, I had to leave, but I can tell you that that singular act that he performed then, that was in 2011, yeah, 2011, I remember. I eventually left 2014, but that singular act really inspired me to become what I am today. And honestly, I'm so grateful to him. But what I'm trying to say is that us principals and heads of, we need to take our time to guide our associates. I mean, I've worked with somebody who never taught me anything. I mean, we're still friends today, but that's just what it is, And that way, trust can be earned. It doesn't guarantee anything. I mean, it doesn't mean that you do that for your associate and he will still do forever. No, it doesn't. But at least just let's make that attempt, to be passionate about how you want your practice to be. Guide your associate, teach them, take the time to teach and inspire and lead. And I think if we all collectively have that culture in our practice, then there's a little bit of hope. Because someone knows that, what go around, what with the doctor, you will learn that's a good place to go and work. And people leaving school want to work with such doctors, such dentists. And I think that's the way to go really. And I didn't intend to say anything, but I just felt I should just put it out there for us to hear. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Diola. I'm the clinical director of Reach Dental. And I would like to speak for young people because I have quite a few in my clinic. And one of the first things when I first started engaging them, I used to say things like, millennials don't have sense. It was something I said, and it was because of the way their worldview is different. I would like to say that because we're a hierarchical profession, there is a problem with the way older people see things and the way they communicate it to younger people. I learned, I don't want to say the hard way, but I learned by being humble and actually getting their point of view to things. First of all, the average dentist in Nigeria graduates without hope. There is a sense of hopelessness when they leave school. If the government is not employing you, you're ending up in private practice. When you look at private practice, you see some of your seniors and you see some of the things that have been done to associates, and you just feel that this is not going to work. So when they're coming to your clinic, they're already coming with a stopgap mentality. It's one of the plans in plan A to Z. If it clicks, fine. If it doesn't click, I have primaries, I have Canada, I can go to the bank, and there's tech. There's somebody in my clinic now that is doing UX, UI design, or what do you call it? We are losing dentists to redundancy. Some people are even just, let me just be a, thank you, or wristwatches. It's from their WhatsApp status that you see what they are really doing. Now, one of the things I realized with them is you need to validate who they are and how they see things. When I was a kid, my father is a surgeon. I saw the respect, I saw the dignity. He was a military surgeon, so it was double. He was a soldier and he was a surgeon. And he used to say things like, you don't get to this stage until like 20, 30 years in the profession. And me as a child, I was like, so I'll wait 20, 30 years, And I was like, there was no way I'm going to do this thing with you. It's shocking that I ended up in the medical field, actually, my sister and I. And you have young dentists, and they're like, we can't wait till we get to 20, they will calculate it for you, 20, 40 something, before I can have a good quality of life. We can't be telling them those kind of things when we are in like a microwave era. Everything is fast, everything is instant, everything is, yes, everything is, on demand, you get it immediately. So what I had to learn to do is part of what Mr. Wale said, that cultural reorientation. I stopped making it about the person, but about the process. Look, you don't have to wait 10 years, but if you apply yourself to the process, you can shorten the time. You must apply yourself to the discipline of it. It's not about, because sometimes they feel, why should I put in so much work into another person's business? It's not about the person's business. It's about the profession. It's about the industry. We all win if you learn how to cut cavities properly. You win if you learn how to do your access for root canals properly. Take your time and learn it. I have one or two. Some of them will even choose, it's only extractions I do. I don't want to do root canals. They'll tell you, young people will tell you, they'll just tell you, they'll tell you that things like, you know, I'm not really good with, I said, so when a patient comes and it's not what you are not really good with, what will you do? You wait for Dr. Diola from wherever she is to come and attend to an emergency. So by the time you make them, and it's constant, the set of people I work with, I did it for over a period of 2 years. Constantly reminding them. And in between is to give incentives. So for that little skill level, no, honestly, if you don't, it's all about money. So we have to put a balance. And, you know, Nigeria has failed us. It has. So a young person, my father told me that from med school, he was offered a car loan. He married my mom as a senior house officer. Nobody, you can't have that conversation now. So if you can do scale and polish, if you can do, no, I taught them how to do fillings. They didn't even understand that composites, there are new generation composites and adhesives. They don't know all of those things. You will teach them all of that. At that level of your skill set, this is what you get as an incentive. If you move up, this is the incentive. If you move up, this is the incentive. And you must master level 1 before you go to level 2. So young people just need validation. I mean, we grew up in the era of you can't wear certain hairstyles. You must look a certain way. You must. Yes, I have a nail cutter in the office for staff, you know. But I think we should also allow some flexibility, even without being unethical or breaking any rules. They are people that they are nomads, or they have their terms and their names and all of that. But the truth is, they are the people we are going to hand over the industry to, and we have to engage them either ways. Thank you.
Any comments from our speakers?
There was something I wrote down when Dr. Smith was talking, and it's just a follow-up to the collective bargaining idea. And I'm sure you have it. I know for pharmacists, you know, you cannot have a pharmacy away from each other, because I think your industry or your sector, your practice is an oligopolist practice. What do I mean? Airline. You never find 2 airlines going to Abuja at 4 o'clock, because the load factor is important. You need to have a certain number of passengers for it to be worthwhile. So if you have 3 or 4 going at the same time, invariably all of them will go to Abuja without meeting their load factor. And even in America, where antitrust and anti-competition law is very big, or even in Europe, airline and oligopolist industry is an exception for survival. So what I'm saying essentially is there needs to be certain things that probably need to be put in place. For example, within a certain radius, how many dentists should be there? Because if we are next door to each other, we're killing each other. The other thing I was thinking as a way forward is if it's possible for a consulting company to really look at ways, you know, if the association can put money together, pay a consulting company to look at ways of deepening the market. You know, it might be very obvious, but I know for us lawyers, we're not business heads generally. All we know is to go to court and come back, you know, and I would imagine that it's probably the same for dentists. You know your job, you probably know how to manage your account, but there might be ways to do it. I also think maybe money should be pulled together for dental awareness, so that it's not just people in the middle class. Instead of just Dr. Karen Way or Dr. Smith doing it on their own, which may be very expensive. If everybody pays 50K or 100K per year for this massive campaign that is meant to be done by Insight, something along that line. I think those are the things that came to my mind. And even, if possible, when you look at America, for example, I know a lot of those lobbying companies, consulting companies that are political, what they work for interest groups like your organization. They don't work for politicians mostly. They work for interest groups that are harassing politicians on behalf of a profession, be it teachers, be it airlines, be it people in the banking industry. I just thought that is very important, just as a follow-up to the issue of collective bargaining. Thank you very much.
Just a quick follow-on on this. You have the profession has resources beyond what is obvious. I now know practically every permanent secretary in Abuja by virtue of what I do now. The head of service is a sympathetic ear. And to his point about lobbying, the only caveat I have is that there must be a clear sense of organization amongst the private practitioners. You cannot help a group of people who are fighting themselves. There has to be, it must be clear that this is one organized thinking front. Then I can take an issue and take it to the NHIS, and the fellow has to listen to me. If he doesn't listen to me, I go above his head, but these, I think, are some of the roles that the organization itself can play.
Thank you very much. I think between Dr. Smith and Mr. Erukusu, they have shown us that what this association is about, what the EXCO has been working towards, which is to try and get more of our members involved so that we can all work together. Yes, pool our resources. I'm sorry to say this, people don't even want to pay their dues. And then people don't want to be involved with committees and things. It is quite distressing. So we cannot work, effectively if we don't have all our members supporting us. So I would like to use this opportunity, having heard both Dr. Smith and Mr. Erukusu, to say that we need to work together. And working together means attending meetings when we're called, paying our dues on time, contributing to ideas, not just sitting back and then expecting, we have members who will just send us messages. There's this problem there. There's that problem there, thinking that maybe 5-7 people can solve everything. No. Then the second thing I want is some clarification, Mr. Erukusu, on this advisory board thing, which is very interesting to me. Are you saying that a small clinic like mine should have an advisory board? Or, yeah, that's what, it sounds good, but I'm one of these people that, I don't like interference. So, you come and tell me how to make my decisions or what. I'm just curious. Then Dr. Smith seemed to suggest that the association could be the advisory board, but I thought you said that it was better that we had
advisors from other professions. Am I wrong or right?
So what I was saying basically is, one, it's better you choose your advisor. There are people that you respect. There are people that you are comfortable with. If you are doing it with the association, there might be people that for whatever reason, so it's better you choose your own. Also, in terms of remuneration, I know we got lucky. What we're offering, it wasn't meant to be paid, but we said, we'll pay you sitting allowance, which may be maybe 100K or 150, then is once a year, it'll be twice a year, biannual. Then you point to a social impact organization, an NGO of your choice that we can put money in your name. For example, maybe I can donate 300K or 500K to. So in terms of the financial cost, it's not that heavy. They are not interested in your business. It's just that every 6 months, tomorrow, for example, at 11, I'm going to present a managing partners report. The first half of it is what is happening in the economy. It's no more than a page. Oil prices, GDP or whatever. Then I'll come to my industry. Then I start saying what is happening. How am I doing with staff? How many people have left? How many people are, just high level, and someone like Architect Babalaki, if I'm going to be specific, we rode on the back of his partnership policy in his own firm. He gave me the person that did it. He didn't show me his own. Because he runs perhaps the biggest multidisciplinary built industry consultancy. They have QSs, structural engineer, and they have about 100 people or so, CCP, they are big. So I could learn what they were doing. I don't know. There's nobody in the legal profession that I know of. I'm not saying it exists, but I'm not open to it. So I'm learning from it. And the architect, engineer, Maduka, also has experience. So they have business experience. They don't have legal experience. They can't tell me how to run a law firm. But when it comes to HR, they know how human beings behave. When it comes to merger, they will advise. And you don't have to take their advice. That's the beautiful thing. But as a matter of practice, what they say is law. Because I know they are not there for money. I know they are not there for any other thing. So the minute they give me an advice and I don't take it, they'll be disincentivized. So your advisor has to be people, they have to be people you respect, you are comfortable with. Why they cannot be lawyers for me? Any lawyer, even if he's 90 years old, is interested in practice. I know it is something-year-old lawyers, so I cannot be giving you my account, my strategic plans when you are a competitor. Even if you say you've retired. But I know that there are certain professions like medicine, architecture, survey, engineering. We have basically the same ethics. Basically the same ethics. So they understand that I cannot advertise. I cannot be jumping from office to office, knocking on the door and say, do you need a lawyer? They understand it. So that's what I'm saying. And, it's what you want them to be dealing with. They will be dealing with. So it's just a more structured way of having a mentor. Sometimes you have a mentor that says, you come and see me every month and tell me what you've been doing. Maybe I should put it in that way. Thank you.
The question about the size of the practice.
So it's not meant to be big, tops 3 people, and it could even be one person. So I'm putting this in the context of partnership and succession. Because here you are, you've decided that you don't want to be a one-man shop. So that's the starting point. So you are looking at building something that can attract others. So the minute you decide that means there has to be some level of scaling up. If you have 4 or 5 dentists, you understand, you would have plans that, okay, in the next 5 years, I want to have 10, I want to have 15, and they can say to you, I'm not in your industry, but I think you are shooting below your weight category. You should go for 20. But that 10 is too much based on your numbers that I'm seeing. It's just checks and balances, someone to go to that you are accountable to, because it's an issue of governance for you, because you can go for 5 years and just have tunnel vision and just be doing as you like with yourself, So you need a system, a support system. Look at it as a support system. They don't have equity in your organization. They don't, they're just your well-wishers, but you're accountable to. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Question.
A comment. Thank you, Dr. Smith. I just want to make a comment about what I just said now. The issue of the advisory board, and specifically the comment you made, Dr. Victor Da Costa constantly hammered it on the ESCO, that the reason why Dr. Smith is not, in quotes, available for such is because he feels that if you people are not coming together for a major cause, he's not going to get involved in it. And sir, this is a plea from us that we are together. We are ready. We need to drink from the aquifer, because the truth of the matter is this: right from the conversations we had yesterday, when we had deans and professors, I wish Dr. Smith was around yesterday. Some were talking in despair. You would expect people at that height of the academic height, that have attained that kind of height, to be talking out of frustration of the system. So we need people to climb the ladder, or else there will be problem. And also the idea of the ethics are there. But the truth of the matter is the mentorship program needs to come in so that people understand how things are done and properly done. Thank you.
So I'm sorry. You see, the issue of ethics, and we had this discussion in MBA as well. You have all the disciplinary system and everything, but it just looks like all our institutions are broken down. When you send someone, I was on one MBA disciplinary committee for about 4 or 5 years. I know how many petitions they saw. People don't report. If you report, they go and bring one person to come and be frustrating for you. Don't spoil his life. Please leave him alone. So I'm not really big. I think what I think will work, because you have to look at your environment and say what works. What I think will work, and I might be wrong, is Tunde, look, you collected money from clients, use it to go and buy land. It is wrong. You can lose your job. You understand? Don't do it again. So how are you going to sort it out? This conversation is not going to go out if you pay this person's money within a year. Then don't let it happen again. It's unacceptable. Now, what that will do is, Tunde knows people are watching him. Tunde is also morally swayed because he feels that people love him. They don't want him to lose his license. Also, the person that Tunde stole his money also know the profession doesn't allow nonsense. They have their ways of making sure that people get their money back, because we're just in a country where, I don't know, people just don't like rules, but I believe rules should work. But we're if you are committed in each profession, about 3 years away for making the rules work. The first 2 or 3 years, cultural reorientation. When issues happen, don't sweep it under the carpet. You understand? No, you can't do this. It is wrong. And things like that. And after a while, you start enforcing. You did it last year. We spoke to you. You said it won't happen again. You did it. So then the message, would have to be out. That's what I would advise. We're in interesting times. Everything that is written in books that we are reading is not what is happening in this country. It's a totally different animal. What is corruption in America and England? There's no corruption here. You call police to go and arrest someone. You don't give him money for transport or money to make phone call. You understand? You are not ready. Meanwhile, in any country, that's corruption. But the man can barely buy a recharge card. What do you do? So I think that's my own disposition to the issue of ethics. I don't think it should be swept under the carpet. I think cultural reorientation needs to be the first priority. Do people even understand what is right or wrong? Do they believe that the rules will be enforced? Because there's also another thing where I feel that someone got away with it. So why are you holding me responsible? It's because you don't like me. It's because I'm Igbo. It's because I'm Yoruba. It's because I'm Hausa. So we first say, you know what? You need to let people believe in that system that is not being used to witch hunt, but it cannot continue. Thank you.
Any other question?
I actually wanted to find out again, we've been talking about the brain drain, our young ones not staying in practices. If someone stays with you for some time and decides that he or she, and you can notice that the spirit is going down, and you ask 1 or 2 questions, and the person says, I would have loved to go for my residency. You can't hold that person down. And I'm unhappy because I've not found placement. I've had dentists who works with me, and they say they have their primaries and they can't go for residency. And the clinic decided on its own to support and pay for the residency, pending when they can get final, perhaps government placement. Because you notice that they were already going down, they're not happy. They want to go for residency, but there's no slot. There's nothing you can do about it. Then another thing I need to ask again is that what is the best remuneration that one should pay a dentist? I think we should, as a body, be able to say, for this number of hours the dentist works, this is what you should pay. If you can, or according to the locations where you are and how busy your practice is. You might feel you're paying enough, perhaps you're not even paying enough. So it's good for the association to actually guide us. Sometimes I call Dr. Afolabi and say, what is the going fee? So that you can at least give them something that is reasonable. You will be happy, your dentist will be happy.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Aisha Okwaremi, and I want to speak for the young generation, which I belong to. Of recent, dental clinics have been springing up in every nook and cranny. And then for those of us younger ones who have decided to set up a practice, well, although I actually acquired an existing practice, so I didn't really start from the scratch. So what role does the association want to play in terms of mentorship, in terms of grooming? Because for me, I acquired the practice, I was working for my boss, I acquired the practice, and then it was just the grooming I had from him, and that is what I've been building on. Now I'm part of the association. what role does the association have to play? Just like Dr. Naboya said yesterday, that we should be ready to learn, unlearn, and relearn. So most of us are opening practices, and I think we're ready to learn. Thank you.
Dr. Odusha.
My suggestion for the young dentist who is building on skills is that, first of all, there is no substitute for formal training. It is very difficult to train yourself professionally because your phantom head is now a living person. So you no longer have that facility where you can experiment. And one foot in the wrong direction can undo your career forever. I'll tell you, one of the defining moments for me as a dentist was an accident I had with a patient. I had bought a very high-end Cavo handpiece. This handpiece was so silent, I had to touch it to know it was running. And along came a very old childhood friend of mine. So we got chatting as I was treating him. I had sliced through all sorts of tissue before I knew what was going on. For me, it was a moment where I stopped and said, no, first of all, I stopped treating friends and relations myself because this is not going to really work long term. And that was, if you remember my question, what price are you willing to pay to learn, to the mentorship thing? Because strange as it may sound, you may have to go to Dr. Eheme and let him show you something, even though you own your own practice. That opportunity, and you may have to stay with him for a month. The question is, if you don't have an associate, so the solo practice is a very fraught practice. You can't leave for any reason. Then the security of leaving, I think I was probably one of the few people who would go on leave when I was still in solo practice, and I would call Dr. Da Costa and tell Dr. Da Costa, all my patients will be directed to you for this period. Not many people would take that risk, but that is where the trust element really shows up. I don't think I lost any patients to Dr. Da Costa. When I'd come back, we'd take off from there. But, so this business of the flexibility with which you are operating, can people come to you, work with you, and go away without you feeling threatened? Can you refer patients? This is one of the main indicators of trust, is whether you are willing to refer. And this profession has a very poor track record when it comes to referrals. There are things that Dr. Ebidapo is really good at and things that he may not know much about. Take the issue of maxillofacial prosthetics. For a long time, I think I was the only person around, but many people were just loath to refer a patient. So to your point about whether you can, whether the association can advise on salaries, I'm not sure that the association will play that role, because this is what in game theory is called collaborative competition. It's one of your edges, and therefore you can't. We are nowhere close to being the kind of association that can say you are 3 years out of school, you earn this year. Because first of all, people are being attracted abroad. So it's a losing game one way or the other. It's something you are going to negotiate. And if you are going to invest in training or support of an associate, believe me, you write it off your books and say, you do this for God's sake, because there's no guarantee that that person is coming back to you or that the person will even stay in the profession. And I'm saying one of the arguments I have is that we don't need to be in a situation where everybody is a practicing dentist. In fact, the more disseminated we are, the better off we are. What we need is that those people who are going to practice should be very well trained. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. I'm Dr. Odushote. I just wanted to respond to what you said, and I'm glad that Dr. Smith has really responded well as well. But one thing I know that had helped me years back is, what price are you willing to pay? I know that when I started in private practice, I was working with Colonel Oshisoya and General Shosilva, late General Shosilva. At that time, my salary was 15,000 naira. A lot of my colleagues were getting 25,000 naira. But I stuck it out because what I benefited in terms of training and mentoring is what had served me till today. I want you to see, or any other young dentist, to see this association as an opportunity as well to network. This is an opportunity to meet people. You're running a practice, you might decide, I'm not going to work on weekends. Why? Because every Saturday I'm going to be at Dr. Naboya's clinic or at shops, and I'll just be looking and I'll be helping out. All those things are part of things that build us up without you paying for that training. You're not going to be paying money, but you're learning, but because you're helping out as well. And also there are also trainings, of course, which also brings us back to where we are coming. We're going around, this is our training school. Because what I see about the training school, it's not just training for young doctors coming out of school, but I also see training for somebody like me that's been out of school for 20 years and I'm learning the newer methods. So it is something that we have to work together. It is not about, I don't see the association as older dentists or younger dentists. We are a team. There are things to learn. There's the new things, the new innovations that the younger dentist is going to bring into the practice. And then there's the mentoring and that the older dentist will bring in. But if we do not network and get to know one another and introduce ourselves to each other, there's no way we can benefit. For us to benefit, we must, as an association, decide, I want to be part of this association. I want to be a strong member of this association. I want to bring in my own voice as well. Then definitely, as an association, we can benefit from one another. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have just 10 minutes. Then from here, we'll go for lunch. Then, God willing, in an hour and 10 minutes, we'll be back. A few months ago, I was part of, in quote, an ambush. It was myself and the president. We went to meet Dr. Hiheme. We went to ask him about this channeling a way forward to partnership and succession planning in private dental practice. And along the line, some of our online members reminded that we should ask our keynote speaker which of the paths he has taken, if he chooses to tell us, in terms of succession.
This was unforeseen. I have taken the traditional route to succession. I simply have 2 associates and 2 orthodontists who work with me on a percentage basis. They also understand that this whole arrangement passes on to them if they want to stay. But I'll tell you that I'm very comfortable with the idea that one day I simply lock the door and walk away. I don't have generational ambitions as such. None of my children are dentists, but I'm happy to support a practice. And you see, the thing is, once you take those types of decisions, then the question of the value of the practice and so on begin to diminish. So as long as they are able to sustain the practice with their own effort, I'm largely comfortable to be in the background. I'm never going to return to practice. I haven't touched a patient in, I don't know, 15, 17 years, but I think there are other roles that, one can play for them and for the collective, the association, and so on. My sense is that you first need to sort of diminish yourself and your own ambitions, and suddenly it doesn't look so difficult anymore. But people also can argue that, oh, we started at a time when there was no real competition. Life was good, but I tell you, we faced different challenges at the time. I don't think anybody here has experienced 40% interest rates on a loan. And we didn't have Chinese chairs. We didn't have, so things have adjusted within the profession such that equilibrium is more or less maintained. My biggest fear is not within the profession. It is external. That is that a Boots chemist comes and takes over the market, and everybody ends up as a low-paid employee. When the HMOs arrived at the gate, we tried to dismiss them. I said, we're not going to work with these people. But such is the power of money that they have overwhelmed even the most successful of us. And I fear that the same thing will happen on another scale as the game changes. We are in an evolutionary process, and we must be very mindful of what is down the road. We may not understand it, and we must be humble enough to say, we don't understand this model of what's coming. But one thing we are sure of is that it's not going to be good for us. And for that reason, and that reason alone, we have to band together. Otherwise, they will do what they are going to do. You see, because the power of Dr. Fadansi asked the question, why is it such a bad thing for Boots to come along? The nature of mass or grand franchising is that if there is no support underneath that is lifting the profession and the fee structure and so on, if the NHS were working, it's a different matter. But if they are not, monopoly power drives down the margins on which the entire market operates. It's just economics. It's not, they don't mean to do you harm, but they are going to maximize their profits at your expense. It's really that simple.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gbadebo Smith. Thank you, Mr. Wale. I'd like to also appreciate Dr. Dapo. They are my mentors. I worked for them. I remember Dr. Smith traveling once and bringing me a very big book. I mean, I don't think I've seen a book that big in dentistry. It was on endodontics, just endodontics. I said, go and read it. And that has really helped me. So I'm grateful to them. It's been very interesting, the discussion today. But, you know, I like to go back to the foundation. Yesterday, we spoke with some students, and what they told us was so discouraging that at this point, they're just working on phantom heads. They're not even seeing patients as such. This is a level 600 student. So this just tells you what is coming if we don't do something about it now. Now, the way this works, you see, it goes beyond what we're seeing now. Now, you imagine that level 600, he graduates, whether you like it or not, he has to graduate. He becomes a house officer. He does his youth call. He's not really seeing patients. And then somehow gets into the system of some residency stuff and gradually gets promoted. As the senior consultants travel to Canada, he gets promoted. Eventually, he becomes a consultant and then may become a professor, professing nothing. Do you understand how that system works? So what is he going to now give to the younger ones? So we're at that point where, you know, what are the students really learning? And this is what we were trying to address with the part of the reasons why we decided that we would have this forum where academia, the government, and private practitioners will come together. So that's the very foundation. And where we are now is that as a private practitioner, we have had in our own practice, we've had to invest a lot in training. We have a subsidiary that does training. And, you know, instead of putting up 1 or 2 extra surgeries, we've had to convert, you know, those rooms to phantom head rooms and lecture rooms. And, you know, just because we realize that we must train. If we don't train, it's affecting us. We employ dentists and they don't work on patients for 3 months, you know, and, you know, for the younger dentists, you need to understand that we need skilled dentists as employers. I once interviewed a dentist, and honestly, within first 5 minutes, he had told me about the salary he wants, his pay, that he wants this amount, he wants that, he wants. So I just thought to myself that, how am I going to get to this guy? So I asked him, I said, have you done this procedure before? He said, no. Have you done this procedure before? He said, no. Have you seen this procedure being done? He said, no. I said, these are routine procedures we do here. So what are you bringing to the table? You understand? And then I just told him, I said, your next interview, you need to try and be humble. You need to try and you know, just come to your level. I mean, in short, I was telling him, I can't employ you. So for the young ones, it's not that we haven't been through this. Dr. Smith just said 40% interest rates in our time. We've paid 45% before interest rates. So it's nothing really new. When I started, at a point, I would trek from Stadium. I was living in Sulere then, to Simisola, because there was always traffic. I was working with Dr. Smith in the Ikoyi then. And I'll just get to Stadium, just get down from the cab and walk home. So we've all been through this, you know. Now, when it comes to partnerships and things like that, what I would advise is that for employers, for established clinics, have a skill and have requirements for promotions. And I think that is, you know, like a level playing field. You employ somebody, the person knows that I'm dentist 1. To move from dentist 1 to dentist 2, you need to do so many root canals, you need to do so many of these procedures. And then you move to dentist 2. You understand? I think with that, that would solve the problem of the younger dentists thinking they're being exploited and there's no future, because from day one, when you get there, your structure, there's a structure in place. And you know, if I work here for 10 years and I do these procedures, this is where I will be. You understand? And maybe you can have a structure whereby you decide that, look, all right, we'll give you the option of a franchise when you get to this level, you know. And I think if we can look into that, things will get better for us. But we all have to work as a team. Now, with the issue of the HMOs, we had tried this before, where we set up a company. And the idea was to present one common front to the HMOs. But unfortunately, we broke ranks. And the HMOs actually realized, one of them actually told us at a meeting that, look, we knew you people were not together. So they went behind and negotiated because they knew we weren't together. I mean, we had a meeting once and one of us said, look, you senior guys, you're established, we're just starting, and we don't have a choice but to negotiate with these people. And they did, and a year, 2 years down the line, they were back because they had been beaten badly by the HMOs. And it's a lesson we all have to learn, that if we work together, we'll do well. Now, also earlier I was sharing with Dr. Latre, and that if we don't get our act together, like Dr. Smith said, the boots of this world will just come and employ us. But if we work together and present ourselves as beautiful brides, we will be in a position to negotiate better, because it's only a matter of time. The big boys are going to come. And when they come, what are they going to find on ground? If they find that the dental practices in Nigeria are world standard, then they're going to offer real partnerships and you get a better deal. But if we're not prepared, they just come and buy us up and treat us anyhow. So we need to be prepared. And I'm just hoping that, you know, the younger ones, you don't look at the older ones as if they are exploiting you. We're not exploiting you, but you need to learn. You need to take your time and learn. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Lunch is ready. Please, a moment, please. Well, please to be back. The program continues immediately after lunch, which is an hour and 10 minutes. Thank you.